So, I got generally pretty good feedback to what we had to say yesterday about Holden, but it has been amazing to watch in the past 24 hours the kind of Holden haters that have come out of the woodwork, where all sorts of people have been writing smart alecky pieces where why is everyone upset about the death of this Aussie icon? There was even a senator from the government who was talking about how everyone was posting these old photos and where were you when it really counted? Well, remember, it was just 10 years ago that the #1 car brand in this country was Holden. 10 years. Now, I know, and I said this last night, I understand the reality of things. The reason why we didn't make cars anymore is because the cost of building a car is too expensive compared to the cheap labour and non-unionised workforces of places like Southeast Asia. I also said that, yes, there has been a change in the past 10 years where people didn't want to buy those cars. But isn't it amazing? When people don't feel an affinity for something, they have to point at people who do. As I said last night, the best part of 7.6 million Holden cars had been made in Australia, by Australians. It was a connection between family members and different generations, and it was a symbol of what we could build, buy and do in this country. But as I said, the narkiness is out there. First, well, you saw it at news.com.au, a piece that, among other things, tried to basically say that the whole thing was a myth about how much Australians loved Holden. Yes, that might be the truth about the number of people who didn't buy a Holden car in 2020, but what about in the year 2000? What about the year 1990, 1980, 1970, 1960? There are an awful lot of people who have an affinity to the brand, and the arrogance that exists in some parts of the media because 20-somethings don't own a Holden and don't understand why anyone would give a stuff about an Australian-made car. Samantha Armitage is a friend of mine. She pretty much didn't go as hard as others, but this is part of what she said today on telly.
All right, David, it is sad. Thank you for that. Sad, Sam, but they've got no one to blame but themselves.
Yeah, and for everybody out there saying, you know, we loved Holden, why didn't they buy Holdens? There wouldn't be in this problem.
And that's fundamentally true. If we bought more of them, then of course it still would have worked. But the whole point is that generations have done it before. We are allowed to mourn things in this country that so rarely are examples of things that we all had in common. It may not be exactly how everyone lives their life in the year 2020, but come on. Why are we not allowed to take a moment to remember this Aussie icon, as we did last night, and as all of us will who've cared about these cars for a long time? Then there's the smart Alex on Twitter, just take your pick, where, among others, idiots say things like this. So Holden is quitting Australia, not Adani. Slow clap for the government. Well, what does that even mean? Now, of course, Holden was leaving because General Motors decided to kill it because, in part, they were not getting the endless billions of dollars of taxpayer funds from the government. Adani is employing people in Australia. It will produce a resource that will end up in billions of dollars in state taxes for the Queensland government, and the resources sector, of course, helps prop up the federal government. What's wrong with these people? Of course, it's all just a chance to be a smart-ass. A smart-ass at the expense of generations of people who cared about their car because it's one of the only things they got the chance to own. It was a symbol about how you had taken a step up in your life. And that's why people mourn Holden. Not because we were trying to show off on social media.